Gaming discourse in recent years has devolved into chaos. Every game is having every little flaw dissected and critiqued in excruciating detail. Sometimes, we as a community need to remember why we do any of this in the first place. We play video games to have fun, and that is why I appreciate games like Robocop Rogue City. This game is nothing special by any metric, but I'll be damned if I didn't enjoy almost every second of the 14 hours I spent on it getting the Platinum Trophy in the process. In this video, we're going to talk about a game that reminds us all about the joy this medium is supposed to bring. A game that delivers unapologetic fun at every turn. So let's talk about Robocop Rogue City. So, Rogue City is obviously a first-person shooter. No other genre would really have suited Robocop better, and if we're talking purely mechanical, it's not a fantastic one. The movement is very stiff, you feel the lack of fluidity with Robocop, and it leads to a lot of engagements where you're just kinda stood there taking damage while you reload, because you can't crouch, you can't jump, you can't slide into cover or something. You would think that this would put you at a major disadvantage, but aside from a couple of moments in the game, that's not really the case. This is because Robocop is absurdly powerful. When you deal damage hard. The standard pistol that you wield at all times, with infinite ammo, is still a one-shot kill to the head on most enemies, and once you can get it to be fully automatic, you essentially have a fast-firing SMG with 50 bullets in a magazine that's one shot to the head. And if you get the insta-reload punch ability, you don't even need to worry about reloading, and that's before even considering picking up the other weapons lying around the game. I would say that the game is hardest near the start. There were a couple of ropey moments for me in the first half, but once I dished out ability points on different abilities and general stat increases, the challenge almost evaporated completely, and the only type of challenge that arose came from artificial difficulty, essentially throwing so many enemies at you that your health chips down regardless. Of course, if you choose to get the ability that makes small caliber rounds deflect off you, you can then ensure that the enemies basically kill themselves. The skill tree itself, as I've just mentioned, is awesome. There's a bunch of categories to choose from that boost your stats and grant you new abilities. You really feel yourself becoming stronger as you progress through the game. So much so in fact that when I went back to an old save file to clean up the only missing trophy I had left at the end, I felt handicapped because I didn't have any of my upgrades that I'd become so accustomed to having. You conduct a psych evaluation at the end of some missions where you'll be given a rank and extra skill points. You earn skill points pretty frequently, and you always feel like you're working towards something if you lay out which upgrade you want next. The arenas themselves aren't really anything special either. There's no elite level design on show here, but they serve as areas to shoot things in, which is all they are and all they really needed to be. There's not a load of enemy variety on show in the game, it's just normal people, armoured people, and then every now and then some robots. Some enemies use grenades more, or can call for backup or something to that effect, but your strategy for each enemy is always just shoot it in the face until the red X appears, which has really satisfying feedback by the way. The dopamine rush when you headshot an enemy is absolutely insane. Weapon variety is also lacking. You have your pistol at all times, but you can pick up other weapons off the ground with limited ammo. Most fully automatic weapons feel very similar, and the shotguns and snipers are too situational to really rely upon all that much. There's a bunch of throwables scattered around, which could be things such as basketballs and chairs, to explosive barrels and gas canisters, which just cause complete chaos constantly, and there is a bunch of them. You can even grab enemies and throw them at other enemies. There's a real power fantasy element going on for a lot of this game, which is exactly how you'd want a Robocop game to deliver its gameplay. The game does have boss fights, although aside from the final one, which I actually thought was really cool, it's the same boss fight recycled numerous times. It's not even a fun fight, the ED has just got far too much health, and it just feels like a sponge fest. But reused bosses aside, the game is just always fun, the pacing is excellent, the main quest is usually just combat encounter after combat encounter, with some light detective work thrown in there every now and then. The side missions generally focus more on conducting police work, sorting things out around the precinct, administering tickets and solving murders. They're cool little pieces of world building that don't kill the pacing at all because they're not really long enough to do so. Generally speaking, This combat is a lot of fun. It won't stand amongst the heavyweights of its genre, but it's a hell of a lot of fun, and I think you'd have a lot of fun with the game, assuming of course you've at least seen the first Robocop movie. That's the sticking point with this game. I don't think it's good enough to be worth your money if you're not familiar with the movies. I'm not a massive Robocop fan. I think the first movie is good. It incorporates social commentary into its narrative while sticking to the campy action tone that it wants to deliver. It's fun. It's a fun film. But this game definitely assumes you're familiar with the movies. It's set between the second and third film, and mainly just doesn't really do a great job of introducing its characters. Like, unless I missed it, it only really alludes to why Murphy is Robocop in the first place, for example. If the game looks cool to you, then I would say that you should watch the first movie and then give it a try. You'll then know enough to get the majority of references, and you'll know why Murphy is Robocop in the first place. But in terms of the story of this game, it's more than I expected it to be. It's not going to win an award anytime soon or anything, but I was expecting the story to literally just be a vehicle for the player to have a reason to shoot stuff, but it is more than that, and it incorporates the best elements of Robocop and clearly gets it. The game makes a bunch of references to the films, with the introduction of the first ED fight being one that genuinely made me really happy.
You now have 15 seconds to comply.
Stand back.
I'll do one better, cop. I'm out of here.
The precinct looks a lot like the movie. The ending features a great nod to the sequels. It's a game that's clearly been made for Robocop fans, with Robocop fans in mind. It would continually make me laugh. Robocop's monotone response to everything somehow makes even tense moments funny. There's a moment on a basketball court when someone piped up to him and was being a little bit aggressive, so I then chose to say something along the lines of, "You're not the only ankle breaker on this court," in the most emotionless tone imaginable. Of course, whilst the humour factor is here, there is also the classic Robocop social commentary that was honestly explored a lot better than I expected it to be, even if it didn't quite land the final punch. There's the constant struggle within Murphy as to just how human he is. He has psych evaluations at the end of most missions, as I mentioned earlier, where you can then give your thoughts on how human you feel you are. He has flashbacks of his family sometimes, even though he doesn't remember them himself. It's quite sad, honestly, and I was surprised by how much effort they put in to making these moments stand out. Robocop also gets caught in the middle of a political dispute, with both sides looking to capitalise and exploit his strong public image for their own selfish gains, and you can choose how much or how little you want to influence the mayoral debate. There's a journalist that's trying to uncover dirty secrets of those in power, and you can help her as much or as little as you like, even though actively breaking the law would surely go against how Robocop has been wired to act, right? This is part of that man versus machine struggle that he's dealing with. You also mentor an enthusiastic kid called Washington who wants to be a better cop but just isn't there yet and needs a confidence boost. You can choose how much of a helping hand you want to give him, and I actually found it quite endearing. Most of this stuff is inside missions, but I honestly think they're worth doing, because whilst you are here for the shooty bang bang moments, the social commentary on show was better than I expected. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say any of these really have a suitable payoff. The arcs end, but it didn't really feel overly impactful. You just kind of speak to them at the end and they're like, you know, just speak to you about the role you've played in them achieving their goals, or the role you haven't played in them not achieving their goals, or something along those lines. So I would have preferred it if they resolved these side stories a bit better, but hey, at least they're there. The game kind of falls flat on its emotional investment. The voice acting isn't really anything special for anybody, I don't think, and whilst the robotic nature of Robocop's voice is nailed, you can't really hear any pain in his voice during sad moments, or desperation in desperate moments, which is to be expected of course, given it's a Robocop game and not Feeling Simulator 2023, but I don't think that there's a lot of overly memorable moments in the game that will stick with me for a while. But that's not really what the game was trying to do. It was trying to give you 10 hours of unapologetic fun with the Robocop name, and it did just that. Detroit itself actually looks really good. It doesn't look nice, it looks like a shithole. But the weather effects aren't bad, and it's a really immersive setting. I got lost in this game. I did not expect to become this immersed in a Robocop title. Robocop Rogue City surprised me. I got all of the dumb fun I expected, and in fact, I actually enjoyed that dumb fun more than I expected to. The story doesn't do anything special, but it was clearly written by people who understand what Robocop is supposed to be, and as someone who appreciates Robocop, I'm glad this game exists, and as someone who appreciates video games, I'm happy that there are still games that feel it paramount that the player has fun above all else. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, then please consider leaving a like, because that would greatly help me out. And if you want to see more videos from me, then I would really love it if you could subscribe, because I upload every single week. But for now, that is all from me. Have a nice day, and goodbye.